Next, I'd like to move on to our next speaker, Mr. Hitoshi Utsunomiya, with whom I also go way back when Utsunomiya Sensei was teaching a class on sake assessment that I took, I don't know, about 10 or 12 years ago. In his current capacity, he's a director here at JSS, and today he's going to talk to us about sake production, sake rice production, as well as trends in quality, trends in the brewing personnel, in other words, the Toji master brewers and things like that. And with that introduction, I'll hand it over to you, Utsunomiya Sensei.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. I'm Hitoshi Utsunomiya, Director of JSS. Okay, let's start. I'll talk about the actual situation and trends in sake production. I'm often asked how many sake breweries there are in Japan. The number of sake brewery licenses registered by the National Tax Agency is 1,163. Still, it is estimated that only about 1,200 of them produce sake, a decrease of about 300 from 2003. Before 2004, there were fewer Junmai Ginjo sake producers than Ginjo sake producers. But now, most producers make Junmai Ginjo. It can be said that this is the era of Junmai Ginjo. Here is the amount of sake produced and the amount of rice consumed. From 2010 to 2015, the amount of rice used increased. This is due to an increase in Junmai Ginjo, which uses a lot of rice. Regular sake has decreased and shifted to specially designated sake, especially Junmai Ginjo. Kuramoto is focusing on the direction of high price and high quality sake. Compared to the past, the ratio of special rice called sake rice has been increasing. This orange bar. In terms of price, Yamada Nishiki is priced at 395 yen per kilogram. In comparison, table rice is priced at 2,030 yen per kilogram. So it can be said that the higher ratio of sake rice also means a shift to higher prices and higher quality. There are 126 varieties of sake rice, and sake rice is being developed in various regions. Akita Sake Komachi, Niigata Koshitanrei, and Yamagata Yuki Megami are well known. Each prefecture has its own designated sake rice varieties. The latest information is posted on our web fact. Here are the production figures for the top 10 sake rice varieties. There are over 100 varieties of sake rice, but Yamada Nishiki, Kohaku Mangoku, and Miyama Nishiki have about 60% of the production. There has been no change in the production amount of Yamada Nishiki. Yamada Nishiki is a brew bar. And locally developed other sake rice, pale brew bar. On the other hand, the production of Gohyaku Mangoku is declining. Next, let's talk about the person who makes sake, Toji, brewmaster. In the past, the most common style of sake brewing was that Toji gathered people from the local community to stay and work at the brewery in the winter, called dekasegi in Japanese. According to a survey conducted by National Tax Agency every 5 years, 74% of sake breweries in 1986 had this style. By 2016, the percentage had decreased to 15.9%. And most of Toji are now employees, owners, or owner families. In this situation, the number of female Toji has also increased. There are no statistics all over Japan. For example, in Nagano Prefecture, there are 7 female Toji, 10% of all breweries. The number of members belongs to the regional Toji association is decreasing. But Nambu, Circle 2, and Noto, or Circle 5, their Toji Guild hold 2 or 3 days training sessions for brewery workers from all over Japan. In addition, new Toji associations are established, such as Shimotsuke Toji, Circle 7 in Tochigi Prefecture. From now, here are some of new technologies and trends. I will show new rice milling techniques, microorganisms, and process. First is a new rice milling technology. You may know that rice polishing for sake brewing is shave the rice from the outside with a high-speed rotating whetstone. Since rice is shaped like a rugby ball, the pointy part tend to be shaved off and become a baseball shape. On the other hand, the protein and minerals that need to be removed from white rice are found outside. So, shaving the rice in a round shape leaves many residues. To remove them completely from the rice must be shaved into smaller pieces. Therefore, a new method of milling rice that involves shaving the entire length, width, and thickness of the rice has been developed. The new 40% white rice looks flat. The advantage of this milling method is that if we polish 60% of the rice, we can use the white rice with the same amount of protein removed at the baseball shape of 40%. The new technology does not waste rice. The next is microorganisms. With the progress of biochemistry, the mechanism of ester production by yeast has been researched, and high ester producing yeast has been developed. On the other hand, some breweries try to use native yeast in their brewery, and others use wine yeast for diversity. In terms of Koji malt, the new type yellow Koji is developed. This high glucose producing yeast yellow Koji is popular for ginjo sake making. The recent trend is to use black or white Koji, which produces much citric acid. Black and white Koji are used for sake, especially for the seasonal sake served chilled, or sparkling sake. In addition, local research institutes are isolating and developing new microorganisms to create regional characteristics. As more and more Junmai Ginjo and Namazake are produced, improvements are being made to preserve the freshness during the brewing process. The temperature of the mash before pressing should be lowered to 5 degrees Celsius. And then it should be pressed in a refrigerated room. The sake is settled in a low temperature tank, filtered with little or no activated charcoal or filter aid. Finally, sake is bottled and pasteurized only once. From storage, delivery to store management in the restaurant is also kept at low temperatures. Usually, sake is pasteurized twice, once before tank storage and once for bottling. There are many filtering and blending steps. So the sake had many opportunities to contact oxygen. In the method of maintaining freshness, sake is bottled at one time and pasteurized in the bottle. A refrigerated warehouse should be set up to cool the pasteurized product as quickly as possible to keep it fresh. When the sake uses these methods, sake contains some carbon dioxide bubbles and preserve freshness. From here, I will show you the changes in components, extract, acidity, and amino acid content. Only ginjo include ginjo and Junmai ginjo. The extract become rising. Ginjo nowadays has become sweeter, along with a fruity aroma. Junmai has the highest acidity, followed by Honjozo and Ginjo, with regular being the least acidic. Amino acid content is also the highest in Junmai. Umami in Junmai is the most pronounced. Due to the smaller rice polishing ratio than before, the amino acid content is lower than before. Despite the shift to modern production methods, the old traditional methods are also revived. About 40 years ago, sokujo was common. Still, now many breweries are using the traditional kimoto method. The growth of yeast along with lactic acid bacteria give the sake a complex flavor and finish. Some breweries are using the older method than kimoto, called bodaimoto, which has been revived. Moreover, the modern fermentation vessels are glass lining or stainless steel tank. Wooden vats are not suited for mass production. Young brewer found wood is sustainable and has a characteristic flavors. They learned how to make and repair wooden vats themselves to be passed on to the next generation. Kuramoto is also focusing on long-aged sake and sparkling using bottle fermentation or carbonation. I think the quality of sparkling sake has been improved for a decade. Lastly, I would like to introduce Kuramoto back to the rice field. It is recognized that obtaining good quality sake rice is fundamental to the quality of sake, either by cultivating it himself or by working with farmers. The sake industry requires a large amount of rice, but few of them produce, the breweries produce the rice themselves. But Japan's agricultural population has been decreasing in recent years. To secure good quality sake rice, some breweries have established new agricultural departments or agricultural companies. I respected and skilled Akita Toji, who called himself Natsuda Fuzo, or these kanji characters, who has died 2 years ago. Natsu means summer, Fuyu means winter. What this means is work at rice field in summer, work at Sakagura in winter. He grew his own rice around the brewery and made excellent sake with it. And now, Kuramoto focusing organic farming. Okay, well, that is from me. Thank you very much.
Very much, Utsunomiya Sensei, for that enlightening discussion on the technical aspects of the sake world. Personally, I'm very interested in sake brewing technically, and it's rare to get a chance, an insider's view of all the things that affect the sake and all the trends amongst brewers themselves and amongst the brewing personnel. I do have one question for you that has arisen because of your rice discussion. As a result of COVID, restaurants all over the country have had to shut down, and for periods of time in 2020 and right now, as a matter of fact, they actually cannot serve alcohol. Obviously, this is going to drastically affect shipments of sake from the breweries, and in fact, that's going to affect how much rice the breweries can use. And that happened again last season, as well as it's going to happen and is happening right now as we speak and in this brewing season. I think that a lot of breweries had excess rice that they just couldn't use in brewery because shipments weren't taking place. How did and how does the brewing industry adjust the flow, the supply and demand of rice, including handling excess rice like they're going to have this year and like they had last year, and adjusting the amount of rice for next year? Could you explain that, Stuart, please? Could you explain that to us, please?
Okay, and the first thing we should do is to reduce the planting itself. Now, Japan is rice planting season. Concerning the securing of the rice fields and preparation of rice seed, we usually need to finish the adjustment by early March as the latest. If the excess harvest of brown rice is stored in refrigerated warehouse, the quality of the rice will not degrade. So much, and the rice can be used for production the next year. Okay.
Yeah, excellent. So in other words, they gather data, they make estimates about how much rice they're going to need, they adjust the amount that's planted, and if it's left over, they can refrigerate it. What that means is that the sake rice will not spoil and they can use it in the next year. Thank you very much. Very, very enlightening answer. Very good one. I think that it's really easy for all of us to get caught up in things like daiginjo and apple aromas and seimai buai and how high or low that number can be. But I think it's also important to remember the significance of Toji and Toji guilds and the technology that goes into brewing every single tank of sake. In any tank that any brewer will make anywhere in Japan, there's a gazillion decisions. How much will they mill the rice? The yeast that they'll use, which, if they choose to use sake rice, of the 120 sake rices out there, will they use? And so all these decisions will drastically affect the final nature of the sake. So on top of all that, it's good to see that they figured out how to handle the supply of rice amidst all the unpredictability surrounding the sake industry today.